As you know, it's a very important topic. Corona, the new reality. Everybody is faced with something that was a new phenomenon, and it hasn't been something that we're used to or something that we were prepared for. So it's come along. It's literally generally taking over our lives, and we have no control over aspects of the coronavirus. But we have our panelists. Let me introduce to you first and foremost Agha Sayyid Jalal Masumi, who will be giving us some Quran recitation first and foremost. Then we have Dr. Sayyid Zulkarnain Jafri, who's a consultant in acute medicine and currently working in general acute medicine in Kettering Foundation Trust. Then we have our panelist, Hujjat Islam wal Muslimeen, Maulana Hassan Mushtaba Rizvi from Canada. Thank you so much. Experience that you hold is in a quantum physics expert. You're an Islamic scholar, and inshallah you'll shed some more light on a few other topics, inshallah, this evening. Next we have Sayyid Mohsin Abbas Shah, journalist, senior political analyst, and boy, we've got a few questions for you tonight. And then we have Sheikh Mirza Abbas, Islamic scholar from Hausa of England, Islamic House of England. Then last but not least, we have Dr. Ali Akbar Mansoor, clinical psychologist, professional and strategic lead for common mental disorders. And no doubt at this moment in time, there are a lot of people that can benefit from your help, because I think most of us that are not enlightened with coronavirus and the situation at hand will be extremely worried. So a small introduction from myself. My name is Ruhi Rizvi, and generally I work with a lot of teams, charities across the board. Human rights is one of my stronger points, and human rights we're fighting for today with the coronavirus. So just introducing myself, first and foremost, like to, we're a bit worried. There's a lot of people who are met by myths at this moment in time. We'd like to be enlightened with some facts. A lot of us have met family members. We're all concerned about them. We want to know, what is this COVID-19? Where does it start? What are the methods what we can use to self-hygiene ourselves, self-isolate ourselves? What is this self-isolation? The other questions that will be asked tonight are, is there any conspiracy theories behind this? Do we have, a lead as to where it started? Is it even relevant, to be honest? But if it is, how is it taking over our lives, and what are we expecting after this COVID-19 is eradicated? Can it be eradicated? What are the strains of virus? So many questions coming over to you tonight. Please join us on this webinar, and feel free to ask any questions at the end. Inshallah, our panelists will be most welcome to answer some of these very pertinent questions. I myself have many questions, and I've put them, we'll be putting them to the guests tonight. So we wanted to initiate this webinar because understandably, many people have many questions at this time, and we seem to be swept away by this whole phenomenon that's just a virus. Is it serious? Is it not serious? So, I've introduced the panelists. Before we start with the questioning, I would like to take a step to introduce Agha Sayyid Jalal Masumi, and we can start with the Quran and we can benefit from this. First, before we do that, congratulations on the night of Ma'abath, or Shab-e-Miraj, as it's also called. Also, it was Mother's Day today, and a lot of people value their families and their mothers and their parents, and this is something, Islamic, but it's also something as part of our mankind to benefit all of our families where we can. Can I ask Agha Sayyid Jalal Masumi to begin with the Quran recitation? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I'm going to recite some verses of the Holy Quran, but before that, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the arrival of the Mab'ath to our Imam of Zaman and to all the dear viewers and ulamas, especially Sayyid Hassan Mujtaba Rizvi, and as well all the people, they are watching from different part of the world. So I'm reciting some verses of the Surah Al-Ankabut, which is about imtihan, about fitna, and as well, if you have time, some verses about our great Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his project. Please say a very loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين. أم حسب الذين يعملون السيئات أن يسبقونا ساء ما يحكمون. من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت وهو السميع العليم. ومن جاهد فإنما يجاهد لنفسه إن الله لغني عن العالمين. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه بكرة وأصيلا. هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. تحيتهم يوم يلقونه سلام وأعد لهم أجرا كريما. يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. وبشر المؤمنين بأن لهم من الله فضلا كبيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم الشريف. Thank you very much. Sister Rizvi, your mic is off, I think.
Agha, would you have a tafsir on the verses of the Quran that you have just recited?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرج محمد وآل محمد. So there are many verses in the Holy Quran about testing or examining the human being exactly, especially at this time. But the verses which I chose from today, of course, there were two important verses. One in Surah Al-Ankabut, which at the beginning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is starting with Alif Lam Mim, which is the huruf muqatta'a, the opening letters, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows the importance of this surah, because huruf muqatta'a, which is a secret between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet, and as well they know about this secret. But draw any another definition about the huruf muqatta, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that from these letters Alif Lam Mim we have created this book, which is the Quran, or which we have this surah, Surah Al-Ankabut. Of course, this surah, the name of this surah is Ankabut, because we have the explanation of the house of Ankabut in this surah, which is spider. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next ayah mentions أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. That is the important part. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, of course the creation of human being is just a transit to show us that this word is not permanent, and we are going to be tested in this word, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Mulk mentions about the creation of human being, that it is ayyukum ahsanu amala, in that part, which of you are doing the best. So do the people think that they will be led to go because they say we believe? It is not enough. So believing that we say we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not enough, because as well we have in Surah Al-Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions wala asri innal insana lafi khusr. Definitely the human beings, they are in loss. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have the exceptions. illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati. As well here, amanu, iman is not enough. After iman we have to do amal salih. And here as well, if we say we believe and we do not do anything, we don't do any deeds, so it is not enough. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا. So we are not living in this world without be tested. Every time, I always mention this to my students, that in even seconds of the times we are going to be tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the ayah number two. And as well Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the ayah number 3, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. This test, especially now this coronavirus or this type of virus is not just from our time. Of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested the previous groups, the people they were before us, and definitely the people they will come after us. Of course, you know, the level of the technology, the level of the medicine, now it's very high, alhamdulillah. But still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this is not just for you, it is for the people that were before you. فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show to the people who are the right people, the righteous people, and who are the wrongdoing people, the people they are in the left group. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to show this to the world. Now, even I was talking to one of the friends, one of the good friends about this. Of course, we don't know exactly what is the source of this virus, but it is a test for all of us. It is a test, and if it is, for example, manipulated or it is man-made, but it's still here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows that you, insan, ya ayyuhal insanu ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. So because nowadays we have seen many superpowers, they were really arrogant, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show them that with the unseen enemy you can't do anything, because it is a virus. Many superpowers, they can't do anything against even this virus, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show them that you are not strong enough. Man kana yarju liqa Allahi fa inna ajal Allahi la'at. If here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, let them know, look forward to meet and face Allah, that it is a term said by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's surely coming. If we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us, if this is a test for us, if any person of us is going to, astaghfiru billah, dies in this imtihan, so that is the want of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all hearing and all knowing. And as well in the next ayah, when I was reciting the last ayah of Surah Al-Ankabut, وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. If we do anything, we do for ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you are going to be tested. So if I'm doing something good, it is for myself. I will see the consequences. And if I do anything bad, I will see the consequences. Inna Allah la ghaniyun 'anil 'alamin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need us. He is ghani.
Same thing.
He is ghani. He doesn't need anything. He is independent. And then I mentioned the verses which is very, very famous about imtihan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, when those verses about وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we will test you. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. It is a ta'keed. It is a emphasize. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ. It is maybe it is a tiny things, a very small things of the hunger of the here. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ. بِشَيْء here means very small. Of for example, Jew, which is hunger, and as well here we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if take someone from us, if we lose something, it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, it could be nafs, it could be a member of our family, anyone or anything around us, or our wealth, our health even. It's a test from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَشِّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this part that you have to give good news to the patients. It's a time of patience for all of us. At the beginning of this part, usually when we recite, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. This is a time of patience and as well prayers, which is two ways which help us in this specific time. And as well, the next ayah, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا. The people, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we had this in our school, in the school of Ahlul Bayt, when we had the tragedy of Karbala and tragedy of Ahlul Bayt, they asked and they came to Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha, what did you say these miseries in Karbala and then in Sham? Of course, Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha, with the iman she had, she said, وَمَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. So anything we have seen, it was all beauty. We have seen the beauty. We have seen the young soldiers of Imam Hussein. They were going to fight for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the rights of Ahlul Bayt, in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those people, they say, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. If this musibah comes to us, we say, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. They say, we are from Allah and we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, we recited some verses about our great prophet, which is in Surah Al-Ahzab, from ayah number 40, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the personality of our great prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his progeny. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين. So here mentions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the our great prophet is not the father of any of them. Just here mentions again the importance of the personality of Lady Fatima al-Zahra, that he, our great prophet, is the father of our great Lady Fatima al-Zahra. and he is the messenger of Allah, and of course the last prophet. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that this prophet should have just one daughter, Lady Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. And again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu dhkuru Allaha dhikran kathira. Now this is the time of dhikr, Sister Rizvi, and as well all ulamas and doctors. This is the time of dhikr. I mentioned this in a live program at Ahl Bayt TV. Definitely with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. If we have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we definitely pray properly, and we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always in our a'mal, in our niyat, our intentions, we won't have any problem. It's a test for us. وَسَبِّحُهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. That's another part. So we have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anytime in the 24 hours if we have time, especially. But definitely we have 5 times, and as well for dhikr or tasbih. So we have plenty of time nowadays, because many people, they are quarantined, they are at home, and it's a great time to dedicate their times for the recitation of the Holy Quran, as well, and tafsir of the verses of the Holy Quran. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور. The only thing that we have to believe that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the angels to take us from this dhulumat. It is a test for all of us. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. If we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will think that Allah will be merciful to us. Sister Rizvi, this is a great time. We will now, believe me, of course it's a fitna, this imtihan, but we will believe that this imtihan has many good side effects for us. We stay much of our time in a house, in a family. We help our kids. We stay in touch with our members of family, for example, wives with husbands, and that will help. That will help us to understand the role of each members of the family. And تحياتهم يوم يلقونه سلام وأعد لهم أجرا كريما. And finally, يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا. So that is the final part. And وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. That we know these all qualities of the Prophet, who is Siraj, who is the light, the bright light for us to guide us in this path, as well as the Prophet Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, I don't take too much of the time of the ulamas. And
thank you so much. That was a beautiful tafsir of the verses of the Quran, and obviously it brings so much peace to the heart listening to the Quran at this juncture, because there is so much peace that we need to find from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the best times, as somebody said today, that quarantine is not quarantine, it's Quran time.
Quran time.
So inshallah.
Mashallah.
Thank you so much, mashallah. Inshallah, look forward to hearing from you soon, and inshallah more webinars. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Again, apologies from Hujjatul Islam al-Muslimin Hassan Mujtaba Rizvi and Dr. Ali Akbar Mansour and all other ulamas. I took your time, and please.
No, I think it was a valid time. Inshallah, we'll be able to cover so much. Thank you so much, Aga.
Thank you. Inshallah, we'll listen to you. Thank you very much.
And next, I just want to hear a couple of minutes of briefing from yourselves, dear panelists, about your views about how it's hit you. Has it hit you? Were you expecting something like this? Did you ever feel that we will be swept away with this whole wave of this phenomena, which is now called the COVID-19? So if I can just ask Dr. Sayyid Zulkarnain Jafri to start with his thoughts. Thank you.
Well, when you work in an active hospital life as a consultant or as a physician, you always expect for the uncertainty. So we always had few epidemics over the few years, starting from H1N1 virus, and then SARS virus, and then MERS virus. So you were anticipating it, but the way this virus has emerged, it just put everybody into such an area where people were not much known about this virus, about the strain of this one, and about the what we call in medical language the virality, the effect of this virus. So there were no way. So I won't entirely say that it was not anticipated. It was anticipated, but not to that extent. Because you almost always, every other Western country, you normally have an epidemic of flu, which, make a lot of people unwell, make a lot of people, critically unwell, lead to a lot of complications. But the way you came across this virus was hardly anticipated. I think that makes it more serious as compared to the, normal strain of other flu virus, because coronavirus is also the similar type which normally causes common cold, but you can see now it's not the same type of common cold. It's slightly more. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Just moving on to Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Hassan Mujtaba. Maulana, would you be able to share your thoughts with regard to this? Just a couple of briefing before I go into the depths of asking you various questions that I feel that should be answered. So just to give a bit more clarity on the situation with the population at hand. And we're very, very desperate to ask a lot of questions, but just your brief thoughts about this whole virus issue that's just kind of come into light and it wasn't there before.
I think at the moment where we stand, there is a shift in the worldview, and the worldview that we had before has been changing or evolving for a little while now. From 1995, when internet sort of started and the digital age, the way that it has developed to this point, I think we all understood before that the world has become a very small place, and whatever happens in one part of the world gets spread over, is known, is part of the the media and the progression of information, that it also determines the connectivity that we all have. But all of that connectivity and worldview was based on things that were looked upon as good. But here we have something that has changed the worldview, in the sense that if something of a pandemic or a hardship or a disease comes in one part of the world, then everyone is going to be eventually affected. So I think the worldview of reduction sort of mentality or separation, that we are all alone, no matter what we try to do in our own borders, nobody else is going to be affected. I think that worldview is changing. I think your question was more on the side of what personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like personally, I'm in Calgary at the moment. I live in Toronto. And I was supposed to fly over, and as the other centers in GTA, in the Greater Toronto area, and also I think the rest of the world, they had kind of closed down even before the government had mentioned that the religious institution, or the number of people that were gathering in the centers. So to me, it was something, okay, try to settle into my mind that whether I'm going to be able to go or not. And till the last sort of, even like 2 hours before my flight, I was checking whether the flight is on time or not. And there was a lot of thoughts that went through my mind, because traveling, of course, they had closed the borders, so international flights were not going to be coming in. Mine was domestic, but anyways, the flight was on time, and there was about 20 people in the whole plane. Whereas I've traveled to Calgary quite a few times, and there are generally, the plane is full to its capacity. But of course, there was a lot of back and forth conversation in my head about whether I should be going or not. And I spoke to the brothers as well, the management too. I said to them that that particular day there would be hundreds or thousands of people that are going to travel, and they know about the risk that they're taking, or they know what is going on, but they're still deciding to travel, so they must have a reason. I just have to realize that my reason cannot be less than theirs. If there's going to be remembrance about Imam Musa Kazim والسلام, Hazrat Abu Talib والسلام, or about Miraj or Bi'sat, or the beginning of the travel of Imam Hussain والسلام, that reason should be stronger than the other people who might be traveling for the sake of work, or going and seeing some relatives, or going to a particular place. So I did decide to travel, and alhamdulillah, it was an experience, and I think that was probably the most predominant impact. The rest is, in Greater Toronto area, whatever is happening, I think is also probably the same in Europe, it's the same in North America.
I believe so.
But
Thank
I
you
think
so
the
much.
worldview has changed.
Definitely. Just moving on to Dr. Ali Akbar Mansoor. What's your views, general views and personal views with regards to this matter? Just a couple of minutes.
It's definitely, as a frontline organization, I'm working with National Health Service UK. So we are facing on day-to-day basis what is the situation, how it is changing. And definitely there is a really fight-flight response at the moment. And you can anticipate how any pandemic or epidemic hits a society. And this is a global issue. And particularly, I will explain later, that we are in a phase where people are like really going away from each other, and there is a dispersion and fragmentation in the society and institution, and this is really a panic state, and we need different measures at this time.
So, we will be talking about that with a few questions that I have for you later in today's webinar. What was your personal view when you when it all came to light and everybody started talking about China, and then Iran, and then Italy?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is that actually you need to play your part as a professional, and definitely you have to manage your own personal fears as well at the same time. You need to manage your anxieties and reassure others. Actually, very normal reaction to any catastrophe or natural disaster is that people actually would lose sense of altruism. They will go into a very basic survival instinct, which is fight, flight response. And people lose compassion. And I think what I'm finding it missing, and I'm trying to demonstrate and extend, that is compassion to our loved ones, to other human beings, actually. And this is thinking that you are part of a global issue.
Thank you so much. Do we have Sayyid Mohsin Abbas online? Sayyid Mohsin Abbas? Okay, let's move on to Sheikh Mirza Abbas from House of England. Assalamu alaikum. Sheikh Mirza, are you online?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yeah, I was just
I
was muted. It's good, nice to see all the Sadat and the brothers and sister, and thank you very much, Brother Ahsan, as well, for giving the opportunity to be with you guys.
What are your views? You have students, obviously it's going to impact House Ilmiya of England, and a lot of the teachings I know are online at this present moment. How has this hit you a little bit? Has this kind of been, well, what on earth is this phenomena, and where are we going with this? What are your views? Just a quick brief summary, and then we can do questions with yourselves.
Inshallah. I was just watching a clip by Ayatollah Jawad Amili in his message to his message on Nowruz, and it was quite interesting. And also previously to the reality of this pandemic that we have, and that was also interesting as well when it started. Yes, indeed, as you said, it has affected everyone. We have gone online. All of our lessons are online now, pre-Hausa and Hausa. We are working from home, just go for 2 days a week now. Apart from that, we are working from home. In regards to what has unfolded, something was pointing out that whatever is in the realm of existence is mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's something that we are unaware of what's happening right now. But indeed, in the realm of existence, it is from the mercy, absolute mercy of His. That's he begin the message this yesterday in regards to Nowruz. For us, I think what all are pointing out to is that it's a time of reflection, it's a time of contemplation. How we are facing this pandemic, this issue. We are just reminded of death, not only death, but after death. How these funerals are being taken place of people. How they are not given ghusl, how they are been just in UK they are talking about cremating the bodies here. Even the Muslim.
Yeah, I have a question with that. We're not going to go around that
these
right
are the
now.
things
I
that
will, inshallah, ask you
coming to
a few more questions that are very, very
our
pertinent
mind right now.
Thank you so much. Okay, do we have Mohsin brother Mohsin Abbas, Sayyid Mohsin Abbas, online? Okay, guess not. Inshallah, we're going to get beginning. We're going to start with some questions. My first questions are going to be posed to Dr. Sayyid Zulkarnain Jafri, MBBS, MRCP, acute medicine, you're a consultant, and no doubt, we need some answers. What is this virus? What is this? What is the difference between epidemic, pandemic? For lay people like myself, we don't. Well, I do have a bit of a nursing profession. I have a nursing profession. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But there are people that won't know such, scientific terms when it comes to strains of virus. Is it different to flu? Is it corona? What is corona? There was a corona before. Because even the packaging of some of our antiseptic wipes already mentioned corona. So did they know that this was a corona? So we have a few questions for you. I will start with the first question. What kind of, can you describe what kind of virus this is? Is it related to the SARS virus? And can it mutate into something worse than what it is already now? What do you think it is? From your professional scientific value and education qualification, what would you actually say this is?
Okay, so I think it's a very, very early stage, because we literally within 6 months of this, it's what is started from as an epidemic to pandemic. So what exactly coronavirus is the same what normally cause you to have flu, common cold, sinus infections. And we have seen, over the years in different forms, but I said before, in the form of SARS virus, which was an epidemic in China and gradually spread to rest of the world, and had a very high mortality. So it's almost what they designated as like a SARS SARS-CoV-2 virus. So it's something similar to SARS virus, but they're still not sure how is it being transmitted. The different thing between the corona and the common flu is that is they are assuming that it might have been spread again from an animal source, but exactly they're not being able to pinpoint where the vector was. What you normally, for example, with SARS virus, we knew that it came from the chicken, from MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory virus, we knew from the camel, and here also they perhaps thought it might have been originated in one of the the indoor
food
market
market.
from Wuhan, but there's no conclusive because they still find some more patients who who never traveled to to that part of Wuhan, so they're still unsure. So the research is in a very initial stage. What they what makes it different from the rest of the the coronaviruses is because it's a novel virus. A novel virus means that it's in so much early stages that you haven't had developed any immunity against that virus. For example, when you go through the common flu or SARS, so it takes almost 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to develop some sort of immunity. For example, for flu, we normally advise people who are at risk of acquiring flu normally to go and have a flu jab. For example, people who have got respiratory problems, people who are elder, people have got underlying lesser immunity related conditions, perhaps like diabetes or kidney failure, something like that. So that's why it's very challenging. It's found to be very challenging that they haven't been able to conclusively tell where it has originated from. And they're just predicting it's the same like respiratory droplet infection, what you normally have with the common flu, but then they are saying it also perhaps is spread from the touch as well. If you for example, if you sneeze or you cough, so those droplet will go and sustain on a surface. It could be any surface from your from your skin to utensils to metal, and there is a various part of how long it was going to stay. So they still in very stage. So that's why it makes it very challenging that we still not sure how long it will take for us to develop an immunity against this infection, whether we are going to have any treatment for that, or whether we are going to develop any vaccine for this infection.
Well, my next question is, what is the difference between epidemic and pandemic?
Okay,
these are terms that people are hearing, but they probably are questioning what's the difference.
Yeah, so sure. When you talk about especially an infectious disease, so we are literally talking about a contagious or infectious diseases. We talk about from the early civilization in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time that there was a plague. So the difference between epidemic and the pandemic is very simple. So epidemic is generally localized to a geographical area. For example, when you talk about swine flu, initially it was epidemic, then it spread to all over the Asia and rest of the part, and then it became pandemic. We talk about Ebola, virus over the past 3 or 4 years. Initially it was epidemic, but then it was on the verge of pandemic, but it never spread beyond Africa. So in this time, WHO, I think, was more proactive to designate this pandemic, because if you're saying it pandemic, it means the infection of the virus has spread beyond the geographical restriction. So initially it started with one city, perhaps in the greater province of the China. Then eventually it is spread to Far Eastern countries. Then it perhaps came to Iran and Italy, South Korea. So they were just contemplating where we are going to designate it as a pandemic. So the main difference between epidemic is the epidemic where the disease is just localized to a certain area, certain geographical restriction, and pandemic is just beyond a geographical area. It will in fact perhaps involve maybe 2 continents, 3 continents. Perhaps we can see now it's essentially involving the whole world. So that's why it's pandemic.
Okay. In terms of self-hygiene, I know that's very important, and with part of my training, it was all about aseptic techniques and all of that kind of thing. And I haven't, even though I haven't been working for a while now because of due to personal circumstances. But can you, if I show you some items, will you just tell people what these are for?
Okay. So this one is just mainly, it's more useful for people who are symptomatic. For example, it would be more helpful if people who are coughing, who is actively having infection, not just to prevent any spread. So it's essentially not helpful for somebody who who is not going to be infected, who doesn't have any symptom. So essentially, it's not for somebody who does not have any of those three main symptoms. For example, fever, dry, persistent cough, or breathlessness. So these three symptoms, tends to differentiate it from other, viruses. For example, with common cold or swine flu or SARS flu. So the main thing, with SARS flu or common flu, you normally don't feel that breathless. It comes at a very later stage, but perhaps with this virus, they have seen it has arrived a bit earlier than anticipated. Perhaps you might develop pneumonia maybe in 4 or 5 days after the onset of symptom. So the mask is more to prevent you coughing those respiratory droplet, which is the
so if it's for those mostly that have the actual condition.
Yes,
but you can't prevent it from from someone else.
Yes, so it's not going to be helpful for somebody who does not have any
mostly for somebody who may have it, huh?
Even if somebody will cough at you, it will also go and deposit on the mask, so you will still be in a position to touch it. So it's not going to, it's mainly useful. And with the current state of NHS, with current state of the unavailability of masks, the WHO is been advising and suggesting a very, very sensible use of these masks.
Yeah, they haven't got enough in stock, and I've been hearing stories from America where they've been asked to reuse the N95s. So I find that ridiculous, because I find that over the world, these most advanced countries that have always been bragging about having so much wealth and being able to have the most advanced medical systems are the ones who don't have these, even the basic ones. So they're asking us. The other item that I have here is, when can these be used?
What's that? Is it gloves?
This is like the vinyl gloves. I've got the vinyl ones, but not the actual latex gloves and things.
It's better, I think. I if you ask me personally, even any other health, I don't consider myself to be an infectious diseases expert anyway. I'm just level-headed physician. But I would suggest perhaps to wear these gloves, where you feel you have more chances of perhaps acquiring infection. For example, like petrol pumps, or where you feel the people have used somebody who might have been a carrier, or perhaps who might be having active disease, might have touched those objects. So there you can use it. But perhaps if you go into the the most recommended advice from the WHO is still the same, that whenever you go out of your livelihood, whenever you go out of your workplace, whenever you're coming back to your home, the best idea would be to come home. The first thing you should do, you wash your hand. So that would be that would be the novel principle for you to prevent the infection. So gloves and masks, I think they do have value, but not as compared to the hand hygiene and the personal hygiene, as compared to to any other measures. I can't see you, Sister Rizvi.
Yeah, I think she's off, but it's very informative, Dr. Zulfiqar. Zulkarnain, sorry, it's really helpful, and public usually don't know about these basic facts, and there are a lot of myths and fallacies about and there's a panic to grab as many like masks or gloves as you can.
Absolutely. So the best thing for somebody would be to have a proper stock of just a hand wash, literally, the good hand wash, and some the degree of sort of warm to hot water, like a warm water, which if you and it's not, they're not asking you to do much. If you ask health expert WHO, they're not essentially asking you to do a lot. They're just asking you to use to wash your hand for 20 seconds. That's all. That's enough to to wash away the virus particle. So it's more than enough. We are living in that era where the media can be a blessing and can be a curse as well. I think
Curse
you all
as well,
agree,
definitely.
you know.
Definitely.
So, so there's so much misinformation about, virus on media, because we all being clinician and being working physicians, being at the front door of, of the medicine here in the UK. We all agree that there is so much misinformation on media
Yes,
about,
yeah.
about, about the different
Spread
myths.
of basically, yeah.
And if you
Contamination, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so it's mainly the myth, and then I think perhaps maybe Hujjat al-Islam, brother Hassan Mustafa is there, and Sheikh Abbas is there. They probably will get into the Islamic myths as well about this virus. I probably they would be more aware than me about this ongoing this Islamic myths about. But when you go into the perhaps just a very, very common sense,
Yeah.
you just it was just hard to believe how people can't just follow simple advice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, yeah.
it's,
I mean, as
it's
as I explained, actually, if people go into really a panic and fight flight mode,
yeah,
they
yeah,
would lose basic rational abilities, and
yeah. No,
rationality would be lost.
I
And that's
know.
the reason. Yeah.
Absolutely, you have to, because see, we know, because being clinician, we know that we are in the sort of area of uncertainty, because we also not
Uncertain. Yeah.
certain, because there's no
Yeah.
much research about it. There's no treatment yet,
Yeah.
available. We don't have vaccine. We still haven't ascertained, where was the vector, where did it come from. So nothing is there. But it's still, we are very persevere. We just think,
Yeah.
okay, we have to fight it. We have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fight it,
Definitely.
mainly with the very, very basic supportive treatment.
Yeah.
The thing which makes it more challenging, this virus is, as compared to, the other coronaviruses, is that, we still haven't established, the what you call like the virality, where the source is. Either it's just respiratory droplet, okay, or perhaps it is also coming from the, the touching the respiratory. So now we are very much sure that it is different to, flu, or perhaps, any other coronavirus, in a way that it can also spread by contact. So which is
Okay.
makes it more challenging.
Just one more item that I have as we speak. This is a hand rub sanitizer.
Yes. Yeah.
Where would this come handy? Why is everybody running to the stores and trying to? And we're actually running out of this in the chemists as well. What's the benefit of having a sanitizer?
So while you were away, Sister Rizvi, I was talking to Dr. Mansoor as well, same with Brother Masumi as well. That so alcohol sensitizer, yeah. So it's a very quick way to get rid of virus, because the alcohol is sort of antiviral membrane, but the same goes, because the the viral wall is very, what you call like a very flail wall, so it gets destroyed very easily with alcohol wipes. Okay, so if you have any, let's suppose in the worst scenario you have some respiratory droplets, any droplets on your arm or your hand, then the alcohol is a very efficient way. But then the question comes, you can't keep on rubbing alcohol gel all the time if you're not getting it. Alcohol gel is not as commonly available as normal soap or water. So that the easiest way for us would be just to wash our hand for 20 seconds. So whatever the research they have done, yeah, because the the outer molecule, what the outer membrane of the virus is more likely to be like fatty. So the alcohol or warm water, okay, is able to destroy it. So it's able to disperse the virus. Okay, but then the other, the thing, good reassuring thing about the virus is also slippery. It's very slippery. So if you put your hand or any place against the flow of the water, it will slip the virus off. So that's why it's really important. So if let's say from this, like let's say from the last week, when when the the government is when the government started taking it more seriously, because they see it, whatever the projections they were doing it, they were assuming there is going to be a big outbreak of, and it's going to affect mostly elder and frail and at-risk population. So then they change the strategy. So if we just made this routine that whenever I'm going out of house, if we had to, or whenever I am coming into house and perhaps might have came contact with something which I was not aware of, I'm going to wash my hand and I'm going to wash it for 20 seconds. And I'll make it habit that whenever I touch something, whenever I use something new, I'm just going to wash it. The reason, the scientific reason, behind it is that, the timing for the virus to stay on human skin, they're saying is normally 4 hours. So that's why they are advising WHO, the all research scientists and all the experts are suggesting not to touch it, the areas where, you perhaps can't reach it. So perhaps, the moment you feel that your hands might have came contact with something which you were not aware of the status of, rather just go and wash it. And immediately wash it. Yeah.
Are we doing are we using the eight hand wash technique?
No, perhaps you can just, you can use
normal soap all over your hands and make sure you've got it through the fingers.
Yeah,
What about people, or especially ladies who have very, very long nails? Do you think that that's going to help them?
It probably will help. You might just have 2 areas, so I know the 8 part would be very difficult for a layman to follow. Even the doctors also sometimes don't do it all the time. We just rush them. The only person I have seen is, the surgeons and anesthetists who do this 8 part.
Yeah, my children used to say I was totally obsessed when I was working.
Yeah,
maybe they should cut their nails,
They should cut their nails.
That's also that's also a possibility anyway. But so anyway, so nails definitely. If you feel some, if there is a skin underneath the nail, which could be a harbinger for the for the virus, you should wash it. As I said, you should make sure that every part of your hand, including the dorsum and the palm, has to be washed for 20 seconds.
Okay. My other question is that we understand it's airborne, and you've got this idea of droplets.
Yeah.
Does it sit at the back of the sinuses before it reaches the throat, and then it starts to cause the respiratory illness before it gets to the lungs?
So they're still unsure. As I said, so as I said, the transit time, same, as we said, it stays on the human skin. So there are some speculation that, the virus, if you contact it through and it has gone to the mucous membrane of your nose, perhaps, or your back of throat, it probably will stay there for 4 hours. And the things which makes different viruses from the bacteria, you can carry them. You perhaps can carry them maybe from 1 to 5 days. But the moment they start this inflammatory process, what we call like an inflammation inside, it's normally very quick. So the incubation. So we're literally talking about the incubation period. So which makes this slightly bit more complex. That how long the virus will stay in the respiratory tract, especially the upper respiratory tract. So there is some speculation it might be 4 hours, it could stay there for 5 days. So they're not sure. So incubation, the thing is, we are still in the initial stages of the research. So we're still unsure whether what could be the incubation period. Because, the virus, we normally talk about incubation period. So just for all the, all the people who are listening, incubation period means is, the time what you need from acquiring germ in the form of either virus, mostly is the virus, till you started having symptoms. So in most of the patients, they thought it could be from 1 to 5 days, but perhaps in some patients they thought about 2 weeks as well. So that's why this government's recommendation came that if you have any of these 3 symptoms, for example, or mainly the 2 symptoms, fever and cough, you stay there at home for 1 week, okay, and rest of your household they stay for 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's just because so that's why it makes it more challenging, because we're still unsure what could be the best incubation period? Because the reason why I'm saying that, because it's a very, very new virus. It's a novel virus. So that's why it's called novel virus, because it's a new virus.
It's something new that's not been discovered
there is,
before.
yeah,
It's
there is.
What's the difference between self-isolation and quarantining?
So self-isolation is, you just isolate yourself. So isolation, self-isolation would be that you either might have developed the symptom, okay, or perhaps somebody who live with you who might have came in contact might have symptoms, okay, and then quarantine mean that you have symptoms. So quarantine will be, so you have to be separate. So because the thing is, there is a big overlap between these all coronaviruses. It could be common cold, or it could be perhaps just the flu, or perhaps it could be this COVID-19. So you can't be sure unless you do the test, which is the swab test you normally do. But then government and the health expert also not suggesting everybody to have the the swab test, because they're just saying on the basis of, because not everybody who might have got fever and cough necessarily would have COVID-19. So that's why you self-isolate, because unless in current environment, and we in pandemic, so we will assume that we have acquired COVID-19. So that's why we have to self-isolate.
Another question that I have, is there a likelihood that when the climate changes that we may see less cases? Is there going to be a slump in the deaths that we're seeing at this moment? Why do you think that is? It because the virus cannot live in a certain amount of temperature?
Yeah, so so that's also one of the features of these seasonal viruses, COVID viruses, mainly the coronavirus. If you're talking about SARS, if you're talking about swine flus, or if you're talking about MERS, that tends to be more prevalent during the winter months, during the temperature where the temperature are relatively cooler. But as I said, you can't be conclusively say that it's going to dip down in the summer month, because we still haven't established it. We're still within 6 months of this epidemic or pandemic. So yeah, we all, I shouldn't say fingers crossed, but as you said, so people are just very optimistic. Perhaps by the end of the spring, perhaps start of summer, we might see maybe a downward surge of the virus. It could be just because whatever the governments have done to for the social isolation or social distancing, whatever you call, might have been successful, or perhaps maybe the virulency of the virus has gone down. So we're still not sure. We probably would know by autumn.
Just want to say thank you so much.
So perhaps as I was telling and other guys, I think that the first thing would be if you perhaps, Parvez, I would just plead to all the listeners who is part of this discussion that if you see any sort of message perhaps on WhatsApp about any ailments or anything, I think double check. Do double check with somebody. My personal view is almost everybody might have a healthcare professional, or in their life, in their family, or perhaps in the friend circle, or a broader. So perhaps it's double check, or perhaps maybe just go on NHS website, perhaps go on
the Healthline or the Medscape, or where best, I think it's the World Health Organization at this current moment, right?
Yeah, so when I said, when people said about, this alcohol sensitizer, so, it's just the water could be as good as alcohol sensitizer if you got a good soap, because, as I said, good soap. So you just have to wash it as you normally do. It's like washing off dirt. So it's
very simple. It is a very simple method.
Very simple. You don't need to have, sensitizer all the time with you. It's better, rather just avoid touching the rest of the part of your body when you feel that you have to do something.
Well, maybe it's good to take some extra precautions, but it's not necessary. Just hand and soap water, does the job. And then make sure you're doing than you've ever done before, I guess. And I think it's a simple rule. Try to clean over your surfaces of as many things that you touch when you touch them, if you have a doubt that they may have been contaminated.
And then I think you perhaps you might come back to, and the other thing which is really important, we should emphasize now, which perhaps, I'm not sure, maybe our, Shia community might be realizing now, but perhaps I would share something very interesting with all of you, actually. I don't know how much, Maulana Hassan Mujtaba have came across, or any of other, in Canada or perhaps in America. The social isolation is the only way, is one of the most efficient way, in addition to proper hand washing, where you can just contain this virus.
Yeah.
The reason is because essentially when you're coughing, when you're sneezing, you're throwing this respiratory droplet, very, very micro, particle, up to almost like 3 feet to 1 meter. So essentially you're spreading this virus to another person. So that person might carry, this virus for good 1 to 5 days or 15 days before they get symptoms. So just imagine if they have inhaled, or perhaps if they have touched that virus at that any particular moment when the other person, the 0 person, or had symptom, then perhaps he or she is going to spread it to maybe his family, household, his workplace, if they are commuting. So that's why, the only reason, when you see why the reason, the number in China has almost essentially to 0 for, I think perhaps for second or third consecutive day, because they implemented this policy so successfully. Because we know, I'm not going to say it, but especially with China or North Korea, they are very draconian states. They're already very authoritarian states, so they can implement whatever they like. They can just tell people and they will do it. We know that with experience. But in the UK, our community, I don't want to go into the Islamic aspect of that. I would just give my opinion as a healthcare professional, going into that concept that, oh, Allah bacha lega, like Allah will save us, or our Aima will save us. I would strongly recommend to have social isolation. Perhaps if one person is sick in the family, just go indoor, stay for 2 weeks, and then come out.
Okay. I just want to say thank you very much, Dr. Sayyid Zulkarnain, for your time, and no doubt you've given some variation to a lot of people who are probably thinking, what is this phenomena, and where do we go with this? My next guest analyst is Dr. Hujjat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Hassan Mujtaba Rizvi from Canada. And I think you want to discuss some elements of disease modalities and metaphysical side of healing from the disease, and maybe the healing mind and soul for the holistic view of wellness. Thank you very much for coming on to the webinar today. Taking a long time, and it's and we're just persevering, but we are desperate to have things to some peace, inshallah, for this webinar.
Thank you. Sorry, sister, your voice was cutting off. So I think you just...
I think my internet is a bit slow, so please forgive me.
That's okay. I think I'll just paraphrase for you. I'll just paraphrase for you what I heard from you is basically some of the things in regards to the alternative medicine. Alternative medicine is something that I am involved in a little bit. And what Dr. Saab was saying in regards to the religious aspect, or where, Allah bachalega type of mentality. I think, he spoke quite a few things about the precaution that we can take. And I think that precaution that he mentioned is would have been probably prudent for our daily basis, right, regardless whether we were in this sort of pandemic state or not. Because, there are other viruses other than corona, and they are probably really upset with corona because due to it, everything is now being hygienically cleaned so much that it's sort of a genocide for the rest of the viruses and bacteria. Now, in regards to the alternative medicine, one thing though that I would mention before I get into that is the immune system. So there is, the hygiene is there, but we also have the bacteria and virus on our body, on daily basis. If we look inside the unicellular organisms or, the universe inside of the human body, we have our own cells, and then we have the bacteria and viruses or unicellular organisms that are interacting with each other, and all of the system is communicating. There's proteins been made, so it's not that we are living without any virus or bacteria. It's our immune system that fights it, isolates it, brings out a database in which it stores the information. And if the information is not there, as Dr. Saf said, that it is a novel virus, so it's building that database. So the strength of the immune system is something also I think we can ask our panelists to let people know that perhaps things that they can do to increase their immune system while they are at home watching Netflix, while going over their shows, going through all of the seasons and spending 5, 6, 7 hours, or the children playing PS4 or Xbox, or having so much screen time with social media that where everybody's actually a doctor now. No matter who that person happens to be, they have an opinion, they have a message they want to forward. Everywhere is just Corona, Corona, and I think people in their mind are sleeping with the images of Corona, waking up with the images of Corona. If they open up the TV, it's just Corona. If they open up the news, it's Corona. If they open up the social media, it's Corona. If they want to have a religious sort of thing, it's all the religions now seems to be revolving around Corona. Even Nadia Ali, Ziyarat Ashura, Ayatul Kursi, all the different du'as of Imam Sajjad, seems to be revolving around Corona. They're doing tawaf of it. And all of this sort of screen time and, mental investment, spiritual investment, and even emotional investment into Corona use the person's immune system. So, I think our panelists should maybe put a bit of light on how a person, even in isolation or in quarantine or in a day-to-day life, what they can do to increase their immune system. The holistic view of health is a little bit different, but our religious view about a human being is a holistic view. We believe that a human being has different levels of existence. The lowest level of existence is our body, and the highest level of our existence is the soul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in between, there are many different levels that we exist. Curing versus healing. I think cure is more of a reductionist sort of taking a human being's body and then making into parts as a carbon-based machine. That you have the pump that pumps the blood, you have the heart, you have the kidneys that process the toxins and so forth, and then you have the lungs. So the separation of different organs, and this sort of separative or reductionist sort of view that we've developed is not that long ago. In alternative medicine, the view of a human being, and it was not curing, but it was more on a holistic basis, that a person's health is determined by their thoughts, it's determined by their control of their emotions, it's determined by their spirit, it's determined by their actions, it's determined by their motivations. So in regards to alternative medicine, it's more of a holistic view. And it's also that everything is connected, and inside of the body, there is a life force that flows. And if there's a disturbance in the life flow, then in that particular part, there's going to be an energy block where the body is going to start showing the symptoms of disturbance of that block. So in alternative medicine, we have acupuncture, we have acupressure, we have homeopathy, we have Ayurvedic. So we have different forms. One of the forms of modalities that I work with on daily basis is energy healing. I think we need to get a little bit out of just concentrating on the hygiene, but also maybe talk about our immune system. So as I was mentioning to you before, that the worldview is shifting. We are all in the same boat. Just little tiny organism that you would have to take a look in the microscope has kind of locked down the whole world, and it has actually forced us to look inside. As Dr. was saying as well, it's a time of reflection. And when I reflect inside, I kind of I think that because of our worldview, although we say that we have a religious worldview, but I think we have a very materialistic worldview. And we even use religion just for the betterment of our matter rather than the betterment of our willpower or our spirit or our soul. And this sort of why in the environment that we're in is actually accentuated that fact. People are more concerned about their physical well-being than rather than them being concerned about their emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. So I would say that and I know we have seems to be in conflict with allopathy, but I don't think that's the case. I think it could be integrated. So for the immune system to stay strong, I think we have to come up with the best sort of a method or understanding so that we are grounded. Right now, because of the hysteria and fear and everything else that's going around us, we're not grounded. We are more in a panic or hysteric sort of way. And now you had given me the title of quantum physics expert. I'm not an expert in anything, but I was hoping to take a sort of a little bit of a different angle in regards to health, wellness, or disease. But I'm not sure people are going to have. But anyways, I like the quantum sciences is because it actually says so there's a 0-point field where everything is in possibilities. There is something, an entity that observes from those 0-point field, and then that trickles down into different levels of existence, and then you have matter. So it deals more on creation rather than evolution. And that entity that quantum scientists talk about, the definition of it is very close to the definition that we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyways, of course, we're not going to be able to go into details about that. But I would suggest to the people who are listening that, if you want to have a strong immune system, if you want to be able to fight with this particular virus, you're going to have to become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong, and you're going to have to tap into your potentiality. We don't talk about our potential. We are more outward rather than inward. I'm reminded of a particular tradition from Imam Ali ﷺ, and we have some other traditions as well. But in the light of that, the meaning or the translation approximately is such that Imam says that the disease is from you, but you do not understand. The cure is within you, but you do not sense. You think of yourself as a small entity, whereas the whole entire universe unfolds within you. You are indeed the evident book by whose alphabets things are manifested. Therefore, you need not to look outside. You need to look within. Whatever that you require or need is within you. So that particular tradition is talking about the potential that we human beings have, and our idea or perception about us is actually quite skewed, or we don't think, we don't think about our potential as being the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the face of this earth. We get too much focused into the outside. I think the outside are the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are there to divert our focus from outside to within. When you look at a tree, your attention should go within rather than just to the tree. When you have that attention going within, you will start seeing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's might, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And the predominant quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is His mercy. But because we live in a very materialistic sort of way, and even the religion revolves around our materialistic view, we have lost in touch about our potential. And right now might be a good time to actually start looking into that. We do always use the words that we are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Him is our return. When death is going to come, no matter where you are, you're going to be getting it. And I think that I was pointing out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save us. I mean, all of those things we do say, but practically, what is the implications of those sayings of our belief? How much do we actually believe? And with that belief now, because we are being tested, we're going to realize from within whether this was just words or actually something that we believed in. I would just do mention that, Dr. The thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does save. It is only Him that saves. It is the dua that is the weapon, is the crying that is the weapon of a mu'min. It is all of those things are there, but I think it's a little bit of correction that needs to be done. That we need to think about that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created is means, and the actual end is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're washing your hands, you're not going out of the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save you. If you're looking at washing with soap or with a hand sanitizer or wipes, that this wipe, these wipes or the hand sanitizer or the soap is going to save you, then there is a problem. If you think that going to the doctor and the doctor telling you that take this medicine, that this medicine is going to save you, or the doctor has the ability to save you, is independent in the ability to save you, there is a problem. If you do not isolate yourself and you go and infect others for the reason that you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save everyone, so regardless whether I'm isolated, quarantined or not, I'm going to go. If the death is going to come to the person, it's going to come. Here, something is wrong. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's means are there for us to utilize, but no means is our end. Disease is means. Your gloves are means. Your mask is means. We cannot think of that independently, that they're going to save us. Our sort of view of the world, our view of our religion, even the Azadari of Imam Hussain reciting, Ziyarat Ashura, reciting Dua Nudba, these are means, they're not our end. The end is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we make our means as our end, the fear and hysteria and panic, anxiety and depression starts becoming part of us. It becomes part of us. It becomes us. And that's where we are at the moment. because we had thought of means as our end, and now if those ends are not working out for us, if the gloves are not protecting, if all of the experts are panicking and trying to decide what this thing is, of course we're going to panic. But if we realize that health is means and disease is means, medicine is means, Quran recitation is means, dua is means, Imam Hussein is a mean, is a wasila, the Holy Prophet is a wasila. All of these are means. Our end has to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we change that idea.
You're generally saying that tawakkul and tawassul are very, very important means at this moment in time. I'm just kind of using
right, but the definitions, right. But the definition, sister, that we have of tawakkul and tawassul, it needs to be re-understood. We need to revisit our ideology. We are still trying to explain things about our ideology with the words that were, mentioned 1,000 years ago. We're still using those words in correlation to understanding our religion. We need to come up with, a sort of tawakkul does not mean that you go out and, embrace the person with coronavirus and say that, this is my reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawakkul basically has different stages. If you are in a stage where, you haven't done any precaution, you haven't utilized any means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, if you haven't actually gotten the information from the right expert or the source. Today on social media, people are coming up, everyone seems to be an authority on coronavirus. The experts are saying we don't know what it is. When you start taking information from all of that, and we haven't done our research, we haven't done we haven't taken the information by the right means, we're not doing the precautions, we're not, making our physical body strong, our emotional, our mental state strong. After all of that, if we have done it, after that, leave what happens to us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, I have to stop you there, Maulana Saab, because I'm very conscious of time, and we've got literally about half an hour left of the webinar, and we still have about 2 or 3 speakers. I've generally taken that so much of your wisdom, words from your wisdom on board, and I hope that everybody else has been understanding that there is time. This time is about introspection, and it's about and a life of a jigsaw puzzle. Science taking it very seriously across our lifespan. So, and I hope that is beneficial to a lot of people. Panelist, Brother Sayyid Mohsin Abbas Shah online. You put Sayyid Mohsin Abbas Shah online. Okay, while we're waiting for Sayyid Mohsin Abbas Shah, we're going to go straight to psychologist. You're a professional from a strategic and lead for common mental disorders in Northeast London. Thank you very much. I'm going to pose a quick few questions because we have a shortage of time.
Yeah, please. What questions?
Yeah, the questions. I'm losing my technical ability to talk to you, but the questions is, most of us are panicking, stressing out ourselves because we've either feared the catching of the virus or because someone we hold dear may do so. How do we calm ourselves down? it's not good for our bodies to stress our hormones out right now, and our stress hormones will be a bit at work. Somebody mentioned the flight and flight hormones and everything, going a bit bizarre everywhere. Is that good for us at this moment in time? Because obviously, when we're talking about keeping ourselves in a state of awareness and sanity, we want to be able to energize ourselves, boost our nutrition, and do all those other things. It's very important for us to stay calm. How would you suggest we do so?
Yeah, I mean, realizing the time like available to speak at the moment, I will try to give you quick tips and areas where we need to be really mindful. One thing that we need to do, which we are talking about media and social media detox, we need to really be selectively and in a very like reasonable way using the sources of information. Those are all around. We need only rely on very reliable sources. Those are government sources, health services sources, rather than just uh, sitting on social media or media in itself. So we need to really restrict ourselves to this media exposure. The reason is what is happening. The major reaction among people is panic and anxiety. When we talk about panic or fear, basically this is anxiety reaction. Anxiety reaction is the difference between fear and anxiety very quickly is the fear where we know the source of threat. But here, actually, we are really not clear. We are fighting with an unseen enemy. So here, if the fear is from unknown direction, or when fear, we say fear from within, basically, this is called anxiety. So anxiety is heightened adrenaline level, which is a natural response whenever we feel threatened. It is a quite primitive and inbuilt system to fight or flight, to fight the threat or to run away from the threat. So this is our body response, which people are staying in. And major fuel for that is actually social media and media misinformation and disinformation. And what happens if you are already anxious about something, you are feeling scared and scared of something and feeling afraid. And if some information comes, or if you are completely focused on an information channel, there would be two uh, thinking errors that we call from psychological term. Those would be in play. And again, the main impact of pandemic or any natural disaster or catastrophe is that people would lose their rational thinking, and they will go into superstitious thinking. They will go into absolutely irrational ways of making conclusions. So two like types of irrational thinking is one we call catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is actually you catastrophize and believe 100% because you are already anxious. So you would develop a specific type of specs on your eyes to see everything coming with a threat signal. So and you would catastrophize that something is terrible going to happen every moment. So again, you would interpret all the information that you are going through constantly as threat signals, then it will keep your anxiety intact and panic intact. The other thing is mental filtering, which happens like when we are already emotionally anxious and emotionally upset, and whatever the news or information we will observe or watch or hear or listen, we would be filtering the positive into that and will be focusing only on negative that would support the anxiety. One example I can give it to you, like for example, reality is that during the last 2 months, World Health Organization report says that actually there were 3,000 plus deaths because of the smoking in the world. And at the same time, alcohol related deaths are like 7,000 within the same range of period. So no one is going to focus on that level of death. Or so this is like at the moment we are focused everything around coronavirus, which is actually becoming a source of maintaining that anxiety. So we need to restrict really media to a certain level, time. And when we are going to distance socially, that doesn't mean that we should lose contact, we should lose compassion. So we need to have a common theme as an aim and objective, and that is continuation. We need to contribute to the wheel of life to be running from all angles. So the best thing is to continue your regular tasks, and don't give up anything, don't sit behind,
Mhm.
don't wait for anything. Rather than, like I was suggesting, a lot of my clients, they plan 10 positive things to be done during this phase when you are isolating yourself or you are like socially distancing. So set up 10. You need to look after your sleep. Sleep is terribly interrupted and disturbed, and which very
Absolutely.
common complaint. People worrying habits have increased. They increase. There are two types of people. One, those have already had some or the other mental health problem, like obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized
Yes.
anxiety disorders, or health anxiety. Their symptoms have gone worse. So they need to be really in touch with their treatment protocols and professionals. And generally, people should be using these techniques like relaxation, mindfulness. You can find a lot of resources online or
Mm.
on net. They need to be really spending more time to build and bridge and to overcome relational ruptures with their family members, with their friends. So this is a time really to reflect
Yeah.
upon. This is some basic like tips. Physical activity and exercise is must, because it regulates your endorphins and all the stress reducing hormones. So these are the basic common tips I think. And
Yeah.
instead of like wasting this time, you need to be really reorganizing your lives. And again, last message, the concept, psychological concept of normality from an Islamic perspective is, and all the participant colleagues are actually talking in one way or the other way, is actually there is a relationship, triangle relationship between God, human being, and nature. And actually, whenever this is disrupted, we go into mental health issues. And because of the current threat and level of panic and fear, actually this relationship is being disrupted, and we need to really reorganize and rejoin those sources. So that's all from me. So I'm happy
Yeah.
if there are any specific questions
Yeah.
I can
Bit
answer.
of a question. I can. One of them is young people and children are very used to socializing, and their life is like, they have something planned at the weekends, and there's university, there's schools, there's colleges, and all of that, and all of a sudden, all of those things have come to an end. One major question that I have is how do you explain to young children what is going on? They're not used to being,
Yeah.
put into a home, which for them would be like, what are we doing? We're being caged up. They want to be moving out. They want to go out to their friends and things. What do we say to them?
Yeah, actually, the thing is, I think this is the time, again, I have mentioned, to reformulate our relationship with children as well. And children are particularly very vulnerable in terms of psychological impact. And sometimes, if we are unable to manage that current impact, they can have long lasting like problems or psychological emotional issues. So, parents are the major source for children, and they would be observing uh, and vicariously learning how parents are actually responding to this situation. So they need two things basically. One is a reassuring figure. They need to have a really healthy attachment. Parents need to be really available to their children. They shouldn't be panicking, because if they panic as a reaction, children are likely to panic at a greater
Mm,
level and for the future as well. So reassuring, they need to be having some clear information rather than not to be given any information. They need a reasonable, up to the level of their age and cognitive ability and understanding. They should have some information, reassurance, and also some plan and reorganization of healthy activities, hobbies. And still, we are in a really good age. Think of like 200-300 years back, when there was any epidemic, people would be isolated and people won't know what is happening out in the world. But now we are lucky that we can connect. We can be in touch with family members. We can be in touch with friends. We need to be really coming off this 100% social media reliance at the same time. And again, I would stress, parents they have the major role or like leverage to really help their children.
Absolutely. I would also ask you, if we stress our bodies out totally, that's going to impact our immune system, or is it not?
Yeah, definitely. Like again, you need to keep your bodies fit. And when we say fit, you need to carry on or continue some routines. Doesn't matter whether you're sitting inside, and if you are working from home, you need to do certain things. You need to recall certain activities that you might have left or stopped doing because of your hectic routines, going to the office to work or things like that. I think this is the time to basically recall and reinstate those activities that you used to
Mhm.
do or you wish to do at some point. So to utilize this time. Again, I'm finding this time is really good for reading certain things
It's
that I
a
have
kind of a
read.
blessing. It's a kind of a blessing in disguise, is it not? That families
Definitely.
can
Yeah,
spend a little bit of time with love and care, and maybe perhaps
exactly.
the things that you weren't able to do because you had a busy working life, or
Yeah,
something has
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
come home,
yeah,
and you can spend a little bit more time with your family than you did before, and
yeah.
maybe value your family members a little bit more than you did previously.
Exactly. More like self-acceptance, more clarity of heart, and more compassion about each other.
Yeah,
Maybe more trying to develop the level of understanding which you
yeah,
haven't got at any point or time to really think or to feel or to realize that. So I think this is
yeah.
a blessing time.
I have one more question for you, and I know this is something that must be affecting a lot of people, especially with those who have family members who have been taken to hospital, are now suffering the full-blown virus in their bodies. What would you suggest to the family members of those whose parents are or family members have been taken to hospital? How do they come at ease? What would make them come to ease right now? What best advice would you give?
Again, the thing is, what happens under or what is happening under these circumstances, people are going into quite selfish mode to avoid people. Like I have heard, not in our cultures like Asian cultures, alhamdulillah, I would say, but people are really distancing and isolating themselves from their family, loved ones, dear ones. I don't think so. The beyond certain recommended care, you need to be catastrophizing about something it is going to have, because we believe in Allah the Almighty, and something we need to deal with from a scientific perspective, from a really uh, a wiser perspective, and also not to be living in fear or losing compassion by all means. And disease doesn't say that you need to lose contact or you need to get rid of or run away from that person. I think
Mm,
people need more compassion and care if they are suffering with that, rather than being isolated, secluded, or being really ignored. So this is the thing. Actually, this is a test of your compassion, your like sentiment of rahma. It's time to really express your compassion and practical help to those people to stay in touch rather than going away from that. So, and
mm,
there is nothing that you should be scared to stop um, in being in touch with or in contact with those people. There's no reason. I don't think so that any scientific thing. It's our fears. Those are stopping us to really stay in touch with those people. Like they are
yeah.
more in need of us.
One final question for you, just before you go, is if one of our family members has contracted the disease from, say, for example, one of our own family members, how does that person come to, what kind of feelings should they have? Should they feel guilty for being somebody that's responsible for passing on the disease? How will they find peace?
Actually, the thing is, this is very common. When something happens bad or negative, people go into really responsibility mode, which we call inflated sense of responsibility. Again, we need to be thinking rationally and looking towards professionals and scientific knowledge. What does it say? Whether it is responsibility, because how you can inflict something to someone which cannot be seen is very common thing. So again, we need to be thinking or trying to think rationally and logically rather than out of our emotions, which is fear. And if you think out of fear, you would never be able to get a clear picture or of the situation. So this is a think rationally. What is the guideline? Whether it is possible that someone, the other thing is, our religion says is intention. Whether someone intention was to pass on something to them, and how it is possible that some family member would pass on anything to them. So I think, but it is very common thing that people would feel really guilty, especially this guilt will come, will further increase if people feel scared to get in touch, and they avoid, they try to save their children from them, and then that is the basically guilt, that is where actually it gets so worse.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, Dr. Ali Akbar Masroor, for your time. And, we value every panelist's advice and views, and the tone that's coming through is, we shouldn't be in a panic mode, and it does nothing for ourselves and our bodies, but it's the time for compassionateness and care for our own family members. To take things lightly, not take them too lightly, but to take them lightly in terms of not stressing out our bodies for the sake of it. And, by all means, leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and, relish the moment that, this is Allah's decision for them. Next, we have Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, Sheikh Mirza Abbas. Welcome to the webinar. I know I've kept you waiting for a while. And it is a 2-hour webinar program, so and there's a lot of questions that I know that a lot of the public would have, especially those that belong to Islam and have Islam as their belief system. My question to you, Sheikhna, is that what is the Islamic perspective in relation to contagious disease and movement of people across towns and cities? Is this movement, should this movement be restricted? Should we follow authorities' guidelines? There's a lot of people saying, matter if we're going to die, they catch the disease, they're going to catch the disease regardless, and it's all Allah, and He's all merciful.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. Yes, I think most of our Maraji have issued fatawas, verdicts and guidelines that we should strictly follow the experts in this regard. And one should be very careful. Perhaps one's immune system is strong enough, but he or she may transfer this virus to other people. And when the experts are advising that they should stay home, they should stay home, because them coming out would be basically a means of contaminating, transferring to others, and that is, entering the realm of haqqun nas, the right of others, the right of people. And I may be strong, but still I shouldn't be going outside. And that's what all the Maraja, even they have shut down the haram. Hazrat Masuma Salamullah alayhi haram has been shut down. Imam Raza's haram had been shut down. I'm unaware of in Iraq, they may have been, but I know in Mashhad and Qom, both the harams are shut down because of this very reason, that we don't want people to come in close contact and have gatherings there. Yeah.
Okay, the other question that I have for you is, people have a perspective that Allah is sufficient for them, and they take the verse from the Quran and some hadith in reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most important. Because of this, it's okay to not adhere to the warnings.
Adhering
Is it
to the
okay
warnings
to not
itself.
adhere to the warnings?
No, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed is always sufficient for all the time, and as we have seen in the seerah of the Prophet and the Anbiya and Masumeen, when they used to get ill, they would call the doctors to provide them with medication. Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he was injured, the tabib was called, and then he advised, what they should do to ease the pain, what's good for him and what's not good for him. As we always recite in the Messiah, milk was supposed to be considered to be something good for him. And the Imam Hassan never said, Imam Hassan alayhi salam or Imam Hussein alayhi salam never said that, what are you talking about? This is my father, he's Imam Ali, he's the Khalifa, and we're not going to take advice from you. No, we absolutely not. The Masumeen, the Imams, and the Prophet, and the Quran itself also indicates that we have to be cautious. They are signs. They are people, ulil albab, experts who will advise you, and we gotta listen to them.
Okay. What is the Islamic view in respect of the attitudes that we should be in relation to our self-isolation, and the government that one of the means to self-isolate is to most vulnerable, separate from ourselves. Given the fact that we're Muslim and we've been given the guidance always to look after our parents, and if our parents are above the age of 70 and the government suggests that we should be isolating them, or they should be isolating themselves away from.
Hello. I think I missed the last part. You mentioned about the government is advising parents over 70 to isolate, and what will be our responsibility towards them as they are our parents. Obviously, as earlier Dr. Ali Akbar have pointed out to, is the niyat, is the intention. It's for their betterment. I'm avoiding them. And at the same time, there are means and ways to attend to them, and the things that are required for them should be given, should be taken care of. Obviously, self-isolation or isolating them doesn't mean that you lock them up. For example, you don't really attend to them at all. You don't provide them with the food. You don't provide with things that they require. No. There are ways and means and methodology of that should be followed strictly. 6 feet of different distance. Whatever the doctors are advising, that should be done, and the other duties and responsibilities should be taken care of.
Okay, going on to. Can everybody hear me? I do apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had tonight. And it's probably the idea that everybody's probably using their nets, and all these internet services are actually slowing down everybody's nets. So I do apologize. There's a bill that discusses burial and funeral rights, which is supposed to go ahead tomorrow in the House of Commons. we're all concerned in relation to our funeral and our ghusl and burial rights, which may not be in line Islamically. Sheikh Mirza, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Have you heard about this bill that may be going through the House of Commons tomorrow? And at this moment in time, there's a lot of hoo-ha about our rights being taken away, and that Muslim bodies may be cremated if this bill is passed.
That is correct. Yeah, I'm aware of the bill, and in this situation, as advised by our Maraji, there are particular guidelines for the ghusl or tayammum. You know, the ghusl should not be given, and they were giving tayammum, and the with utmost care of the person who is given, obviously, and then the body bag is not opened, it's not allowed, and then on top of the body bag, the kafan should be provided. For example, talqeen is something that is mustahab, it's not wajib. The funeral prayer is performed. So I mean, these are the things that the Sharia is adapting to in this state. But once again, if the bill does not pass here in UK, which I doubted, then cremation is basically the law of the land. You know, do you think that we will be having any choice in this case? The lawyers are better here to discuss that, perhaps.
Okay. Just a quick question. Do you see a spiritual benefit in this virus? Some of us already have a family member in high risk. There's the whole idea of leaving our elders and isolating them. What is our duty towards Islam?
Yes, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all your family members and all of those who are attending this webinar, all mu'mineen and mu'minat, and all Muslimin, all mankind, you know, from this deadly virus. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, uproot this virus which have shaken the societies, the human societies all over the world. Definitely, see, virus is just a means for us to remember death, for us to remember Allah, for us to remember what will happen of our body after we die, for example, and even reflecting upon things that have happened to our deceased in the past, which some of us have never come terms to. You know, why this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away my father. You know, imagine this, that it happened now. You know, I mean, at least your father marhum had a very good burial. You know, we all prayed, we all cried, we did majlis, we were, you know, we recited Quran in group. Now, if it would happen, well, now what, right? So it's really a time of reflecting on it, and through this, you know, the whole human society are mutawajjih, have focused towards death, and you know, this is focused towards Allah when it comes to Muslims, when it comes to mu'mineen, and at the same time, as earlier Maulana Mushtaba pointed to, the soap that you're washing will save you. It is really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, in Jawadi also pointed out in his message on Nawruz that in Surah Yusuf there's a verse which says that Aksarohum, most of the mu'mineen are mushrik. They are mu'min, but at the same time they are mushrik. You know, it is quite a very powerful, fascinating verse of the Quran. I believe it's 112, verse number 112 of Surah Yusuf. Maybe Sayyid Jalal can help me here, which talks Aksarohum, you know, most of the mu'mineen, they are mu'mineen, they are believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Aksarohum, most of them are mushrik. So this means that, you know, I may be a mu'min washing my hands soap, imagining that it is this soap which is, which is really saving my life. It is this sanitizer which is saving my life, or the advices of these experts is really saving my life. Well, there is these advices of the experts that I have to take. I have to wash my soap, I have to tie my camel, and then I have to do tawakkul after that, right? So it is, it is at the end of the day, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is his shah. It's whatever, whatever he decides, whatever he wants, and he has destined a time for me. And it's a true belief of Tawheed that he is the player, he is the actor, he is the file, right? So this is the time to reflect on these things now. Like for example, they say that there is lesser jihad and greater jihad. The greater jihad is the jihad of the nafs. That is all the time there. You may be in sleep, you may be at home, you may be at night or morning. The lesser jihad is enemy is in front of you. Now the jihad is like, where's the virus? We don't know. We are just always worried, washing here, washing there, thinking about this, the grocery that we are bringing, washing it with the wipes and detergent and whatnot, right? So it can be anywhere, and we are always vigilant, we are always awake, we are always in the state of taqwa. That's what Allah wants. Allah wants us to be always in the state of taqwa, with God consciousness, that I should be awake. I just sat here, I touch this screen, I touch my phone, it may be here. So I'm always remembering that, right? The same way I should be concerned about my akhirah, about my hereafter, about myself, about the action that I'm doing, things that I have done in the past, time of recollection, seeking forgiveness, connecting to the kin, taking care of the debts, taking care of things that I have missed, right? So it is time for that.
Okay. Can we consider this virus as being if we do become if we do contract the virus and we do take on the full-blown symptoms of this virus, and heaven forbid it takes us through a respiratory illness and everything else towards death, is it a form of purification, can we say?
That we find from Masumin alayhi salam, which clearly says that a person will not be taken away from this world unless or until his sins are forgiven. So that subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to have ease for him in the hereafter. So he will basically let him go through tough times here in this world, and he will be taken pure from this dunya, this world. So there are and riwayat that it is actually in order that his sins are forgiven. He goes through tough time before he dies. Yes, aspect as well. Yeah.
Okay. Can this virus be considered as an azab from Allah?
Azab and imtihan, which have two sides. One side is azab, the other side is imtihan. Both are the same things. Like it depends how we face that. As there's an ayah of the Quran which says that whatever that musiba comes, subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is muttaqi yahdi qalbah, his qalb, his heart will be guided. So the muttaqin are, when they face musiba, they will be guided. When they face a calamity they are facing, and they will reflect. So that's what we find within Ayan, and also within the relations as well of the Masumin alayhi salam.
Okay. death has always
where
been
it
around
says
us.
that, okay, if facing at imtihan, you will be reminded of Allah, and you will be asked towards seeking forgiveness. It is an imtihan. As a person completely forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even after he today, for example, some people, not taking any form of being a wake-up call for insan, for human being.
And the other question that I had for you was that should we be spending, I mean, I know we've been discussing a lot about and the time we spend, but if people are still not waking up, some of them will not be still waking up, and as you say, it is a waking up call. And we should be actually, conversing with our Lord and trying to make up a lot of things. Would you suggest that we spend a lot of our time doing tawbah for all the, for our sins at this time? I think we seem to have lost Sheikh Mirza. Sheikh Mirza, are you there? We've had a lot of technical difficulties tonight. But hopefully Sheikh Mirza will be back. But just the last few words in respect of this COVID-19, last words that you would like to, give the audience or viewers in respect of them coming to an understanding about this. Can I speak with Hujjat al-Islam wal Muslimin Hassan Mustafa, please?
Okay. I think with the conference that we had with all the panelists that spoke, my last words, I don't think that it would be like, I think we're probably in the initial stages, and the way I'm looking at things is that this is the end of times, and we know about the end of times that there is going to be viral or communicable diseases where a large population of the world is going to be reduced. We also know that there's going to be wars. The signs of the coming of the Imam, there are some that are specific, some that are general. So in the general ones, there is the disease, the war, the earthquakes, the natural calamities, and so forth. Sister, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The general sort of signs of the coming of the Imam, I think probably Corona could be one of them, considering that it has become a pandemic and the whole world is engulfed in it. And as far as the deaths are concerned, it was actually a little bit, I'm not sure what the right word would be, but if you look at countries like India and Pakistan, the number of people that were infected or the number of deaths that have occurred is quite significantly less than a lot of the other places. And I think one of the reasons could be that the environment that they are in is not very hygienic, and their immune system keeps on getting challenged with different bacteria and viruses. And like for us, like living in the West, if we were to go back home, drinking water becomes a problem, or eating food from outside becomes a problem. So I think if we just take a look at this particular disease as one of the general signs, of the coming of the Imam. And we are the ones who have been told about this even 1400 years ago. So for the Shias, or the ones who are waiting for the coming of the Imam, it should not be a surprise that this is happening, since we already have that information. We should have been maybe a little bit more prepared emotionally, mentally, and with our faith to be able to tackle this. And I think as time goes by, we will be, since these are the initial days, that panic and hysteria is there. But I think we should start looking at that maybe this could be a beginning, it could be a catalyst for those signs of the coming of the Imam becoming more apparent, and the connectivity of the world becoming more apparent to everyone. And that in these times, I think it's more of a getting ready sort of an attitude that we can take. So do the precautions that are necessary. Listen to the expert of the advice of the experts, but precaution has a certain boundary. If you cross that boundary, you will get into OCD, you'll get into panic, you'll get into anxiety, you'll get into depression. So precaution to a certain degree, to a certain point is good, but continuing it forward, thinking that it is only precaution, it is only isolation or quarantine that is going to save us, I don't think that is the right way. I think we should be grounded, we should be firm in our faith, we should differentiate between the hysteria and panic and the propaganda of the media. We know that in the end of days, we are going to be tested with a lot of different calamities. Is part of it. Become prepared for the coming of the Imam. When you are in isolation or you are at home, don't spend all of your time on Netflix. Don't spend all of your time on PS4, Xbox. Don't spend all of your time on social media, because this is the time where you could have utilized to strengthen your faith and getting prepared. What if the Imam is going to come, and am I prepared? Because those things are going to ruin your mental state of mind, and in return your immune system is going to go down, and all of the precautions that you're going to take are not going to work, because you have done this to your own self. And just remember the hadith that I mentioned to you from Imam Ali, it is a very famous one. Everybody knows that don't think of yourself as a small entity. There is a whole entire universe that unfolds within you. The disease is from you, but you don't understand. The cure is within you, but you do not perceive, you do not feel it. So utilize the du'as, utilize the prayers, utilize Quran, utilize soap, utilize the hand sanitizers, utilize the knowledge and advice of the experts. But just remember, these are all means. None of it is actually going to save you independently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save you by means. And if you make means your end, then those means become your God. So I think today there's more tasbih of Corona being done in the world than it is the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because this has become the end of people, it has taken over the lives of people, have taken over the minds of people, has overtaken their faith of people. And in order for us to let go of all of that, think of it no more than what it is. It is a disease, it is a virus, it is there, it's communicable, there are precautions, there are things that you can do. At the end of the day, it's only that. And it can become a sign for the coming of the Imam. Get yourself prepared and become strong emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And don't give yourself to our lives have become so empty that people think that if they cannot go on Facebook or WhatsApp in their day, that they're missing something in their lives. The phone is the one that we touch 85 times in a day. If you want to stay away from that virus coming in, stay away from your phone. Stop touching your phone. Keep your phone at home while you go out. You can wipe the phone. It's probably more important to wipe your phone and your your tablets and all that than your hands, because if your hands have touched it and you're touching it 85 times a day, which we do, go into isolation, not just putting yourself in a room. Go through isolation from all of these things. You don't understand what impact Netflix is going to do to you by watching it 7 to 8 hours, but you're concerned about a virus that is going to attack to your immune system. Your immune system might even defend you. That is going to give you a fever, a cough. After 14 days, you're going to be okay. But try to learn from this isolation, from the things that are affecting our mental state of mind, spirituality that we are supposed to have, the TV that we watch, the screen time. On social media, there are people who are, they're inside the dirt, and the spiritual diseases that they have are coming out. They're becoming boastful, they're becoming arrogant, they're becoming condescending, they're becoming, we were very non-social before. We become probably a lot now. Stop doing that. Stop playing into the propaganda of, stop, becoming part of the hysteria. Try to calm people down. And also for my scholars too, this is a good place for us to have people, come to a place where they can tap into that inner potential and spirituality. Rather than getting them, if you open the Quran and you find a hair in there and you put it in water and drink it, that you're going to be safe from corona. Try to make them understand that Islam is actually a rational religion. It's a religion of common sense. It is the miracle of the Holy Prophet is knowledge, is what he has given to us in a form of a book that is there for guidance of all of humanity, to get us to that potential and to become the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For us, we shouldn't be letting go of the, of rationality and common sense. Just because, people are coming up and saying that, okay, a Shia is now going to contract coronavirus. I mean, or that if you were to do such and such, you're not going to. Like, the thing is, if you have not reached that state of conviction, of that stature of spirituality, even if you recite Surah Al-Hamd, which has the effect that if it's recited on a dead person will come back to life, that Surah Al-Hamd is not going to have that effect. The problem is us. We haven't reached ourselves to that place. Therefore, Ziyarat Ashura or Dua Nutba or all of these things, when you recite and nothing happens, you kind of go into that state, they don't work. No, they are going to work, but the conditions are that where is your faith, where is your conviction, where are you? Are you the philosopher's stone? Are you on that place of Ismi Azam? Have you reached that place where if you were to say kun fayakun, that it will happen? So if you were to work on your own self and get yourself there, the rest of the means are going to get you, and the result is going to be always in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I want the blessings, the special blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon all, and like Maulana said, upon all of humankind. And I want us to understand this is end of times. We have had a very good long run of comfort. Now we are getting into those days. We are going to be tested with a lot of different things, and this is probably just the beginning. But it is an indicator that maybe the coming of the Imam is soon, and we should prepare ourselves. Sister, could you hear me? Maulana, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Assalamualaikum. Yes, we can hear you. I think all of the others just dropped, perhaps.
Yes, maybe.
Okay.
They're coming back. They're coming back. MashaAllah.
It was a great pleasure for all of us to listen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah,
May
MashaAllah.
Allah bless you. May Allah
May
bless
Allah protect you.
Allah
Have you
bless
returned
you.
back, MashaAllah?
I'm
Sayyid
still here. I'm still here. I was just unmute. So yeah, Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah,
Assalamu
Maulana,
alaikum.
that was
Assalamu
quite,
alaikum.
MashaAllah, that was quite informative actually from all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab.
You know, so I'm not going to see a lot of people just deliberately because I'm almost going every day to the hospital. So perhaps I can just plead you all as much as I can, at your level, with your family members, the big circle. Just please spread the message that the only way we can contain this virus is just to isolate ourselves. There is no alternative excuse for, as I started my conversation with Allah Malik hai or hamare Aima will save, hamare Aima humko bachenge. Sorry, Sayyid Masumi, I'm speaking in Urdu sometime, but it just rest of these guys can understand what I'm trying to make a point. So you would be surprised to hear, because I'm at the front door actually. I'm one of the physician who normally look up. I'm not personally looking after, but I'm part of the team who is looking after these patients. So, and we are anticipating probably more cases coming in coming couple of weeks, and it's very striking that most of the casualties, not almost, I would say almost all of the casualties, but most of the casualties are coming from our community, from the Muslim community. Because, only on the basis of the fact, um, if you just see that, the big cohort of Asian population, we've seen that we generally get physiologically older as compared to the Caucasian counterparts or Afro-Caribbean counterpart. For example, if you compare it, 65-year-old Pakistani or Indian or Bangladeshi male as compared to Afro-Caribbean or perhaps a Caucasian, they probably at least will have 2 or 3 comorbidities. We know with experience, going through our family, going out our circle, even myself as well, I have got a very strong family history of everything from diabetes to stroke to heart to kidney diseases. So the importance of the social isolation in our community is of vital importance. It's really, really important because because we, if you compare our community, for example, the Islamic, the Asian, North African community as compared to, or perhaps maybe to some extent, Greek and Italian community or, Far Eastern community, we are very, very socially cohesive as compared to Caucasians, because they're, I've been in the UK for how long? I would say probably 15 years or so, or something like that. The only time when I see the people, mainly the white Caucasian people, getting together is around either Easter time or Christmas time. Am I right? But if you compare our community, even especially if we talk about mainly about our Shia community, mashallah, like 14 Aimma. So their Milad is there, their Shahadat is there. Then we have the Juma processions.
Absolutely, it's very, very important. Thank you so much, Dr. Syed Zulkarnain Jafri. I didn't want to interject here, but now I just want to go to Dr. Ali Akbar Mansoor for your last words, just tonight. And hopefully, inshallah, we're going to have to bring you all back for another seminar, because I believe that there is so much to be said, which wasn't able to be said tonight. Final words from yourself, and then can we have Sayyid Jalal Masumi with the dua to end the whole webinar for tonight? And inshallah, I'm looking forward to another one because I know there is so much to be said and so much to be questioned.
Thank you very much. I mean, just one thing, this is a test, this is an imtihan for all of us, and we need to actually demonstrate sabr. And from psychological point of view, one thing is for sure which we can do, and that is we can definitely manage anxiety and worry. We might not be able to change the external environment, what is happening or what is coming up, but definitely one thing is for sure that we can manage our anxiety and mood. And if we set up a good routine plan, not to let disturb our routine, that our like interactions, our relationship. It will help us really stay mentally in a good state of mind and healthy state of mind. So let's focus
Yeah,
on managing,
inshallah, Kareem.
utilizing all the resources or self-help or iman and spirituality. Everything needs to be really put into practice.
Inshallah. Sheikh Mirza, would you like to say a few words just to end the webinar for today before we have the dua from Sayyid Jalal Masumi?
Yes, inshallah. Thank you very much, first of all. And inshallah, humanity have gone through different tests, and this is one of it, and he will come out of it, and it will be over, as Ayatollah Khamenei also points out to that we will pass this. We'll pass this, and inshallah, we have to take precaution, as Dr. Lamdar Saab all doctors, experts are advising isolation is the best remedy right now in regards to this. And Mushtaba also have indicated we should be prepared for the Imam Asar alayhi salam in this, not overwhelm ourselves with gadgets, with and so forth. Inshallah, it will be over and we will come out of it, inshallah.
Inshallah, Kareem. It's being
Masud,
victorious all the
inshallah,
way,
and may Allah
inshallah.
protect you.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Ameen.
Inshallah. Yes, we will.
Thank you very much, the panelists. We're just going to finish with a dua from Sayyid Jalal Masumi. And I wish everybody, protection and prevention from the coronavirus. And inshallah, looking forward to another webinar with yourselves, something that will benefit everybody else, just like I'm absolutely sure this webinar program must have benefited tonight. I'll go all over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, just I want to mention this point, which the fear we have from coronavirus. If we have just half of it, or maybe very less than this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would have Imam Zaman with us. Unfortunately, not just we Muslims, even the human being, the fear they have from the things they can't see them. And if we have this fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have this taqwa, definitely Imam Zaman will come very prepared, inshallah. We do dua, and thank you very much, Sister Rizvi. Thank you all ulamas. Thank you all doctors, inshallah. I wish all the best for all mankind, inshallah. اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور القرآن وزين أخلاقنا بزينة القرآن اللهم اشف مرضانا بشفاعة القرآن وارحم موتانا برحمة القرآن اللهم انصرنا وانصر ديننا وإسلامنا بنصرة القرآن اللهم احفظنا واحفظ والدينا وأساتذتنا وعلماءنا بحفاظة القرآن اللهم سلمنا وسلم مسافرين بسلامة القرآن اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج بوساطة القرآن اللهم احفظنا واحفظ أولادنا ونواميسنا بحفاظة القرآن اللهم يا حميد بحق محمد ويا علي بحق علي ويا فاطر السماوات والأرض بحق فاطمة ويا محسن بحق الحسن ويا قديم الإحسان والجود والعاف بحق مولانا الشهيد الحسين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
Thank you very much, everybody who has actually participated as a panelist for tonight. Thank you very much. Your words have meant so much to the viewers, myself particularly, who has been a little bit concerned. But, you know, you have put my mind at a lot of rest tonight, and I hope that is the same case for all of our viewers. Inshallah, we look forward to another webinar with yourselves. Maybe shortly as things progress and maybe we see some changes, hopefully positive from our side. We wish and we pray for everybody who is enduring the pain of their loved ones or through the virus themselves. And inshallah, those who remain safe, we pray continuously that, you know, we pray for their protection, for prevention from the virus. And inshallah, in days to come, we look to see a lot of positive outcomes. Inshallah, Kareem. Thank you very much again. Panel, you have done amazing work tonight. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah.
Thank you very much.